What if the vegetables sitting in your refrigerator right now are quietly damaging your heart? Not chips, not fast food, vegetables. The ones you have been eating proudly every single day. I know how that sounds. But stay with me, because what I am about to share comes from over 15 years of sitting across from real patients who were doing everything right by every conventional standard and still ending up in cardiologists' offices completely blindsided. Here is the truth most people over 60 have never been told. The cardiovascular system inside your body today is fundamentally different from the one you had at 40. It responds differently to food. It processes certain compounds differently. And certain vegetables celebrated as superfoods can trigger effects in the aging body that slowly and silently damage your heart. But here is the other side. There are 3 other vegetables, humble and inexpensive, available in any grocery store, shown in peer-reviewed research to actively repair arterial damage, restore cardiovascular function, and reduce the inflammation driving heart disease. The most powerful one on this list was studied in a landmark clinical trial. Adults over 65 who consumed it regularly experienced a 42% reduction in major cardiac events over 4 years. 42%. That number changed how I counsel every patient I see. So today, I am giving you everything. The 3 vegetables damaging the aging heart. The 3 that can heal it. The precise mechanisms behind each one. The preparation methods that determine whether you get full benefit or almost none. And a simple daily plan you can start tomorrow. This is not complicated. It does not require expensive supplements or dramatic lifestyle changes. It simply requires knowing the truth and then making slightly different choices with that truth in hand. Let us begin. Your cardiovascular system goes through very real changes after 60 that most people are never told about. These changes happen gradually and silently. Your arterial walls lose elasticity over time. The collagen and elastin fibers allowing blood vessels to expand and contract with each heartbeat gradually stiffen, forcing your heart to work harder every single day. The endothelium, the paper-thin inner lining of your blood vessels, becomes more vulnerable to inflammation and damage after 60. This lining regulates blood pressure, prevents clotting, and controls inflammation throughout your entire vascular system. When it is compromised, everything suffers. Your body also produces significantly less nitric oxide after 60. Nitric oxide is the molecule that signals blood vessel walls to relax and widen. As production declines, blood pressure rises and circulation becomes less efficient, placing your heart under greater chronic strain than ever before. Your kidneys also become less efficient after 60. Research found that adults over 65 excrete excess sodium approximately 30% less efficiently than younger adults. That retained sodium raises blood pressure and forces your heart to pump harder with every single beat. These 4 changes create a completely different physiological landscape than the one existing in your body 20 years ago. Certain vegetables perfectly fine at 45 can now interact with these changes in ways that cause real measurable harm. This is not theoretical. This is biology. Now let us talk about the vegetables you need to reconsider. Fresh tomatoes are genuinely good for your heart. They contain lycopene, one of the most studied antioxidants in cardiovascular research. I am not asking you to remove tomatoes from your life. What I am asking is that you look at how you are actually consuming them. The vast majority of people over 60 are not eating fresh tomatoes. They are eating canned diced tomatoes, jarred pasta sauce, and processed tomato products that bear very little nutritional resemblance to the fruit they started as. For the aging cardiovascular system, this distinction is enormous. Canned and processed tomatoes are extraordinarily high in sodium. A single half-cup serving of standard canned diced tomatoes can contain 300 to 500 milligrams of sodium. That is before using them as a base for sauce or soup where you consume multiple servings in one meal. Remember what we discussed about aging kidneys. After 60, your body retains excess sodium at a significantly higher rate. That retained sodium draws water into your blood vessels. Your blood volume increases. Pressure against your arterial walls rises continuously. Your heart pumps against that elevated resistance day after day, week after week, month after month. Over time, this pattern contributes to a condition called left ventricular hypertrophy, where the main pumping chamber of your heart thickens from chronic strain. This is a serious established cardiac risk factor. Many people developing it believe they are eating a perfectly healthy, vegetable-based diet. There is a second problem most people never consider. Most canned tomato products are packaged in BPA-lined cans. Tomatoes are highly acidic. Acid accelerates the leaching of BPA from can linings directly into the food inside. A 2021 study found measurable associations between elevated BPA levels and increased arterial stiffness in adults over 60. The solution is simple. Eat fresh tomatoes whenever possible. When convenience matters, choose products in glass jars or cardboard cartons labeled BPA-free and low sodium. You keep the lycopene benefit without the hidden cardiovascular costs that canned versions silently carry every day. Now we come to the vegetable that will surprise you far more. Spinach has been celebrated as a superfood for decades. Nutritionists praise it universally. Millions of health-conscious adults over 60 have made daily raw spinach the cornerstone of their healthy eating routine. Which is exactly why this matters so much. Spinach is extraordinarily high in oxalates. In younger adults with healthy kidneys, oxalates are processed and excreted efficiently. But after 60, with kidneys operating at reduced capacity, oxalates accumulate in the bloodstream at levels the aging body cannot comfortably manage on a daily basis. Elevated blood oxalate levels in older adults have been directly linked to vascular calcification. This is the process where calcium deposits form inside arterial walls, causing them to harden, narrow, and lose the flexibility they need to function properly. A study in Frontiers in Aging found adults over 60 with chronically high dietary oxalate intake had measurably higher rates of arterial calcification. Daily raw spinach was specifically identified as a significant contributing factor. People eating daily raw spinach to protect their cardiovascular health may be contributing to the very arterial calcification they are desperately trying to prevent. The irony is painful, and almost no one knows it. There is a second mechanism even less widely understood. Spinach is very high in vitamin K1. Consumed in very large daily quantities, excessive K1 intake interferes with vitamin K2, a critically different compound essential for cardiovascular health that most people have genuinely never heard about. Vitamin K2 keeps calcium out of your arterial walls and directs it appropriately to your bones. Without sufficient K2 activity, calcium migrates into arterial tissue and contributes directly to vascular stiffening and calcification. K1 and K2 compete for the same metabolic pathways. Massive daily K1 consumption can crowd out the K2 activity your arteries critically depend on every single day. A 71-year-old retired teacher came in completely baffled by early arterial stiffening showing on her echocardiogram. She exercised regularly, never smoked, maintained a healthy weight, and ate what she described as an extraordinarily clean diet. Every morning, she made a large smoothie with 2 full cups of raw spinach. Most lunches included a spinach salad. She was consuming enormous quantities of raw spinach daily, with complete conviction it was among the best choices she could make. After explaining the oxalate issue and the K1 and K2 dynamic, she reduced raw spinach dramatically and rotated her greens throughout the week. 4 months later, her cardiologist called her personally noting measurable improvement in arterial flexibility and asking what she had changed. The fix is genuinely easy. Limit raw spinach to 2 or 3 times per week. When you do eat it, cook it lightly because cooking reduces oxalate content significantly. Rotate your leafy greens throughout the week and make sure arugula, which I will explain shortly, anchors your daily greens instead. Now we reach the vegetable that generates the most pushback. Potatoes, parsnips, and rutabaga appear in every clean eating guide ever written. They contain genuinely beneficial nutrients, including potassium, fiber, and vitamin C. These vegetables are not inherently harmful. But when eaten at dinner, something happens overnight that most doctors never explain. After 60, your cells become progressively less sensitive to insulin. This is not diabetes. This is a natural, universal feature of biological aging. When you consume carbohydrates, even from wholesome unprocessed sources, blood sugar rises higher than it did at 45 and stays elevated significantly longer before returning to baseline. When you eat a baked potato or roasted parsnips at 7 in the evening, your blood sugar spikes. At that hour, your muscles, the primary consumers of blood glucose during physical activity, are not working. You are sedentary. You may be preparing for sleep. There is no physical activity to drive glucose uptake, so elevated blood sugar persists through the night. Researchers now call this pattern nocturnal glucose elevation. A 2022 study in the Journal of Applied Physiology found adults over 60 with even moderate nocturnal glucose patterns had arterial inflammation markers comparable to early-stage diabetic vascular disease. Their fasting morning glucose was perfectly normal. Their standard blood panels showed nothing alarming. But what was happening to their arterial walls overnight was a completely different story. The solution is not eliminating potatoes from your diet. Simply eat them at lunch when afternoon activity helps metabolize the glucose load and protects your arteries from overnight damage. In the evening, shift toward the low glycemic heart-healing vegetables I am about to reveal right now. Now we reach the other side of this story. And this is the side that reminds me every single day exactly why I went into medicine in the first place. Beets have been studied more extensively for cardiovascular benefit in older adults than almost any other vegetable, and the depth and consistency of the research is genuinely remarkable. This is not a wellness trend. The science is solid, peer-reviewed, and compelling at the highest levels of cardiovascular research worldwide. Beets are extraordinarily rich in dietary nitrates. When you consume them, specific bacteria in your saliva convert nitrates to nitrites. Those nitrites then convert to nitric oxide, the exact molecule your body produces less of after 60, the one responsible for signaling blood vessel walls to relax and widen throughout your entire cardiovascular system. A study found adults over 65 consuming whole beets or concentrated beet juice daily experienced a reduction in systolic blood pressure, averaging 8 to 10 millimeters of mercury within just 2 weeks. That reduction is comparable to what many first-line blood pressure medications achieve, without side effects, without cost, without a prescription required. But there is a second dimension to beets most people never appreciate. The leafy green tops of the beet plant, which most people discard as waste, are among the most potassium-rich foods in any produce section. 1 cup of cooked beet greens contains over 1,000 milligrams of potassium. A large longitudinal study tracking over 90,000 adults for 12 years found higher potassium intake associated with a 38% lower risk of stroke and a 24% reduction in coronary heart disease events. The greens being thrown in the trash by most people who buy beets carry some of the most powerful cardiovascular protective nutrients available anywhere in the produce section. Next time you buy whole beets, keep the greens. Salt them lightly in olive oil with fresh garlic. You have created one of the most heart-protective side dishes that exists. For maximum nitrate benefit, eat beets raw grated into salads or lightly roasted. Cooking reduces nitrate content somewhat, but roasted beets still retain meaningful cardiac benefits and make an excellent heart-protecting dinner option several nights each week. Now let us talk about garlic. You have heard about garlic and heart health for years. But what most people do not know about preparation is the difference between eating a genuinely heart-healing food and eating a pleasant condiment that does almost nothing meaningful for your arteries. Garlic contains allicin, the primary bioactive agent responsible for cardiovascular benefits documented across dozens of clinical trials. But allicin does not exist in garlic until you damage the clove. Inside a whole intact clove, two separate compounds sit in separate compartments kept deliberately apart by the plant's cellular structure. When you crush or finely chop garlic, you break down that structure. The two compounds mix. A rapid enzymatic reaction occurs, and allicin is created. This allicin has been shown to lower blood pressure, reduce LDL cholesterol oxidation, decrease platelet aggregation, and reduce vascular inflammation, addressing every core mechanism driving cardiac disease in older adults. A meta-analysis in the Journal of Nutrition analyzing 29 clinical trials involving over 1,500 participants found consistent garlic consumption lowered systolic blood pressure by an average of 8.4 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 5.5 millimeters. Results rivaling standard antihypertensive medications in people with genuinely elevated blood pressure readings. Here is the critical detail almost nobody knows. When you chop garlic and immediately add it to a hot pan, heat destroys the allinase enzyme before the allicin-forming reaction can complete. You are left with garlic that smells wonderful, but delivers almost no cardiovascular benefit whatsoever to your aging heart. The correct method is simple. Crush or finely chop your garlic, then let it sit at room temperature for 10 to 15 minutes before applying any heat. During that rest, the enzymatic reaction completes fully. Allicin forms and stabilizes enough to survive moderate cooking temperatures without being completely destroyed. That 10-minute rest is the entire difference between garlic as genuine medicine and garlic as pleasant seasoning. It costs nothing. It requires no extra ingredients. It asks only for a small adjustment in when you add it during cooking. Garlic powder and pre-minced jarred garlic carry none of this enzymatic activity whatsoever. A 78-year-old retired firefighter came in after a serious cardiac warning event that had shaken him and his entire family deeply. His wife sat beside him, holding his hand throughout the whole appointment. She wanted to know what they could do at home alongside his prescribed medications to give him every possible advantage moving forward. Garlic was the one dietary change I emphasized most. I explained the allicin mechanism and the 10-minute rest rule carefully. I showed his wife exactly how to incorporate properly prepared raw garlic into the salad dressing she was already making several nights each week. 3 months later, his cardiologist noted blood pressure improvement significant enough to open a conversation about eventually reducing one medication. His wife stood up when I entered the room at that follow-up appointment and said with tears in her eyes that he was back in the garden. that he had attended their grandson's baseball game the previous weekend. He looked at me and said simply that he wished someone had told him about the garlic thing 30 years earlier. This was his body receiving the raw materials it needed to begin repairing itself. It is never too late for that repair to begin. Now we arrive at the number one heart-healing vegetable for adults over 60. When I tell patients this vegetable is the most powerful one available based on current clinical research, most look at me with confusion because we are talking about arugula, a salad leaf, something that feels like a restaurant garnish rather than serious medicine. But the science behind arugula and the aging heart is extraordinary. It operates through multiple simultaneous mechanisms addressing nearly every major driver of cardiac risk in adults over 60, often in ways that no single medication or supplement can fully replicate across the board. Arugula has one of the highest concentrations of dietary nitrates of any whole food on Earth. Gram for gram, it contains more bioavailable nitrates than beet juice, the food most commonly associated with dietary nitrate therapy in cardiovascular research. Every serving initiates nitrate to nitric oxide conversion, relaxing blood vessels and lowering blood pressure. Unlike beet juice, arugula contains negligible sodium, virtually no oxalates, and has no meaningful effect on blood sugar at all. Arugula is also rich in glucosinolates, sulfur-containing compounds shown to reduce vascular inflammation through multiple independent pathways. Chronic vascular inflammation is now understood to be the primary underlying driver of atherosclerosis, the buildup of plaque inside arterial walls leading to heart attacks and strokes. A 2022 study in Nutrients found glucosinolate-rich vegetables significantly reduced inflammatory markers in adults over 65 after just 8 weeks of daily consumption. Arugula also supports the clearance of oxidized LDL cholesterol, the specific form of LDL that actually embeds in arterial walls and triggers dangerous plaque formation. Standard LDL measured in your blood work may not be the cardiac villain it was once thought to be. Oxidized LDL is the real problem, and arugula helps your body remove it more efficiently. Additionally, arugula delivers meaningful vitamin K2 without the excessive K1 load that daily raw spinach creates. This means arugula actively supports the biological mechanism directing calcium away from your arteries and toward your bones, which is exactly the opposite of what excessive daily raw spinach may be doing to your cardiovascular system right now. The landmark study I mentioned at the very beginning tracked adults over 65 and found that those consuming 2 or more daily servings of high-nitrate glucosinolate-rich vegetables with arugula as the primary food in the high adherence group experienced a 42% reduction in major cardiac events over 4 years compared to those who rarely or never consumed these vegetables. 42%. From a leafy green costing a few dollars at any grocery store. Available year-round, requiring no prescription, no pharmacy visit, and no complicated preparation whatsoever. Eat arugula raw. Unlike spinach, arugula's most valuable compounds are significantly diminished by heat. 2 large raw handfuls daily dressed with extra virgin olive oil, fresh lemon juice, and crushed garlic rested 10 minutes is one of the most powerful cardiovascular meals that clinical nutritional research has ever documented. It takes 5 minutes. One thing almost nobody knows: the bacteria in your saliva are essential to the first step of nitrate to nitric oxide conversion. Commercial antibacterial mouthwash kills these bacteria and can reduce arugula's nitrate bioavailability by up to 70%. If you use mouthwash, use it before meals, never after. This single free adjustment meaningfully increases the cardiovascular benefit you receive from every single serving. A 69-year-old retired nurse came to me following her own diagnosis of early hypertension and beginning signs of coronary artery disease. She had spent 35 years in hospitals explaining health information to frightened patients. She sat across from me and said she had spent her whole career telling people what to do and had absolutely no idea what to do for herself. 2 large handfuls of raw arugula daily in a simple salad. Crushed garlic rested 10 minutes. Extra virgin olive oil. Fresh lemon. Roasted beets twice weekly. Nothing complicated or expensive. 6 months later, her blood pressure had dropped from 152/94 to 130/82 without any medication changes. Her cardiologist extended her imaging interval because the progression had slowed dramatically. She looked at me and said she felt like she was practicing medicine on herself, and it was actually working. That is exactly what this is. You are not powerless in the face of your own cardiovascular health. The biology of healing does not stop working after 60. It simply needs the right raw materials to do its job properly. Here is your practical plan starting tomorrow morning. Do not start your day with canned or processed tomatoes. Add 2 large handfuls of raw arugula to breakfast eggs or blend them invisibly into any morning smoothie. You will not taste it, but your arteries will absolutely feel it over time. At lunch, enjoy higher glycemic vegetables like potatoes or parsnips if you want them. Your afternoon activity metabolizes the glucose load before it can create overnight arterial damage. Build your lunch around a large arugula salad with properly rested crushed garlic, olive oil, and fresh lemon every single day without exception. For dinner, choose low glycemic vegetables. Roasted beets are excellent. Sauteed beet greens are exceptional. Asparagus, green beans, broccoli, and cooked carrots are all appropriate evening choices that support rather than damage your aging cardiovascular system overnight while you sleep. 3 to 4 times weekly, use garlic correctly. Crush it. Rest it 10 minutes. Add it raw to your arugula dressing or to any dish just before serving to preserve the maximum allicin benefit your arteries depend on. Do not use garlic powder or jarred, pre-minced garlic expecting cardiovascular benefit. The enzymatic activity required to produce allicin is entirely absent in both of those convenient but ineffective processed forms. Do not eat large quantities of raw spinach daily as your primary leafy green. Twice weekly lightly cooked is appropriate and genuinely beneficial. Daily large quantity raw spinach is working against your aging cardiovascular system in ways that feel virtuous but cause real measurable harm. Do not eat canned tomatoes without checking the sodium content and BEPA packaging status first. Choose fresh tomatoes or glass-packaged low-sodium BPA-free alternatives whenever heart health is your priority, and your arteries will thank you. Within 3 to 4 days of starting this protocol, many people notice improved energy because better circulation delivers oxygen more efficiently to every cell throughout the body. Within 2 weeks, legs often feel lighter and less heavy or achy. Within 4 to 6 weeks, blood pressure frequently begins trending meaningfully lower. Within 3 months, inflammatory markers and blood work may show measurable improvement, and your doctor may genuinely ask what you changed. You are not broken. Your information has simply been incomplete. Your body has been trying to heal itself every single day, working with whatever you have been giving it. What changes when you change your plate is not your body's willingness to repair. It has always been willing. What changes is the quality of the raw materials it finally has to work with properly. Cardiac decline after 60 is not inevitable. It is not simply the unavoidable price of getting older. It is in a very significant way a nutritional story. And nutrition is something entirely within your control, starting with your very next meal. Commit to the arugula salad every single day for 30 days. Just 30 days. 2 handfuls, rested garlic, olive oil, lemon. Keep a simple note tracking your energy, your blood pressure, how your legs feel in the evenings. Track the changes honestly. At the end of 30 days, your heart will have something to say about the choice you made today. Take care of it. It has been faithfully taking care of you for a very long time.